Someone else have a question? Yes, this madam?
I'm sorry, it wasn't about feeling.
Oh, well, you ask me any question.
How much free will do we have?
None.
If I'm
Oh, sorry.
if I believe that, okay, I don't want to be angry, I choose to let go of my anger, do I have a free will of choice? Can I do it? Or who is doing it?
And no, did you hear what the lady said? Are you a hearer? No. Did you hear? No, okay. The lady said, how much free will do I have if I'm going to get there and get rid of my anger, which is a choice, I don't want to have this. Who's doing that? Who's making this decision, this choice? Because I said that we have no free will. The only free will that we have is when we have no will. And then there is only the divine will, which is every moment. Then I have no will of my own. Then I am free. You see, the divine will is what's happening now. Everything that happens is the divine will, is God's will. Every single thing that's happened, my hand's like that now, that is the divine will. You moving in your chair just then, that's the divine will. Everything here now is precisely the divine will. Now, if it weren't the divine will, there'd be some other will or something else that's running things. But it is the divine will. Everything that happens is the divine will. Now, within that divine will, we make our choices from ourself, our past experience. We make our choices from what we like and what we don't like, but mainly from our past experience. So we make choices. Now, one of the things in my teaching is that eventually you will give up making choices. It's just a waste of energy, and it's terrible. It's exhausting to make choices. And you will eventually give that up because that's the way of things. You see, in the spiritual life, it's a downhill run. Everything's being done for you before your death to get to a certain place in the spiritual life. It's a downhill run. And the more that you give up, the more that you go with the divine will, wherever it takes you, whatever it wants, whatever happens, you don't resist it. You take what action you are moved to take in any situation, but that is action. That's not thinking about making choices, making decisions. You just go with everything except where you are moved to take some action. And then you are one with the divine will, and only then are you free because you've given up your will. Does that make sense, madam? You know, when we have choices to make, we sit in bed and we debate it. What will I do? Will I do this? A decision to make. Will I do that? And the whole night goes on. Say I don't do that. Say I wait for 9 a.m. tomorrow when the big meeting's going to take place, and I have to say what my decision is. Say I wait for that time. Does that mean that if I don't make a decision during the night, that 9 a.m. is going to come, or not going to come? We've now stopped 9 a.m. from coming. Have we stopped it because we're not thinking, making decisions? No. 9 a.m. will come, the meeting will come, and someone will say, well, what's your decision? And I will open my mouth, and out it will come. Probably the best decision I ever made. Now that's living the divine life, not deliberating, not being deliberate, but having my faith in God, in the truth that I have realized within. So I say to people, stop making all those decisions. And this is part of the spiritual life. Stop all those decisions. I know you mightn't be able to stop them all, but stop half of them. You know? Because you probably won't have to make them at all when the time comes. Something's likely to happen, and solve it for you. And there was no decision, and you spent 3 nights, sleepless nights, trying to make a decision, and it was all solved for you. Now that's a spiritual life, and that's giving up your will, you see. While you have a will that wants to make decisions, you are not with the way of things, with the divine will, and so you're going to have conflict. Now this is not done overnight. I'm not suggesting to you that it's done overnight. The spiritual life is a long process, but it's an increasing process of more intelligence and more ability to see the significance of life and of living. So it's an ongoing thing. It's not a static thing, as you know. But it does go towards giving up my will, and that begins with stop making all those decisions and choices. Look, if you've got to make a decision, you look at the facts. That's all you can do. Like the man who asked me yesterday about the jury service. Now, the jury service is a matter of external assessment of evidence. And so it is with the decisions that you have to make in your life. An assessment, a practical assessment first. There's the yes and there's the no. For and against. And I must not judge it emotionally. For if I get emotional about making a decision, I'm going to do what the scientist does and put second thing first, my emotions first, my feelings first, against the fact. And I'll make a mistake. I'll get it wrong. So the way to make a decision is to weigh up the evidence, isn't it? For and against, according to my life, according to what is best that I see in the moment. And then come down on the biggest yes. That's all you can do. No decision is ever guaranteed to be right, is it? Only afterwards you find out whether it was right or wrong. There's no guarantees. But the best thing is to not be emotional about it, and you might be able to see clearer what is best. Because emotion is the enemy. It is the sheer spoliation of everything that is decent and right and true. But I ask you to see that. Now, the lady said, well, who's making this decision to give up my anger? You see, it's not a decision. Let me explain why it's not a decision. If I know that broken glass on that pavement, if I tread on that broken glass, causes pain to my body, do I make a decision not to tread on it, or do I just not tread on it? Am I likely to decide to tread on it? I mean, that's ridiculous, absurd. You see, I know what hurts from my experience. So I don't have to make a decision about not treading on the broken glass. I just avoid it or get rid of it and sweep it up. So it is with anger. You don't have to make a decision about it. It hurts. And you don't want to tread on it or have it in your body. So it's not a decision. Once you see that it is not right, once you see that, there's no decision. Okay, I know it's very difficult because of the way we're taught to think.
Well, you know, I want to say first that I'm more grateful than I can ever say for your teaching, and I listen with all my heart. When you say, though, or any great teacher even, it sounds like I'm supposed to be doing something, a certain way, a certain discipline of my life.
Now look, you do with your body, or you do with stillness. It is the self that does everything that we're talking about. Every problem is doing as the self. So if I say stop making decisions, there's nothing happening in me. I'm not doing anything. if I stop making decisions. See, there's no doing in it, there's no effort in that. You're in a state of not doing. And if I cut down all the things that I do, say I talk too much, say I chat too much to people. Well, to start with, in the spiritual life, my advice would be, if you see that you chat too much, if you see it, then that means you've seen something that you need to get rid of, that you're wasting energy in chatting. Then, to begin with, it seems to take effort to stop the chat. And that's the secret which masters don't explain, that in the beginning, it has to take effort to do these things. Because everything in this life, to begin with, takes an effort to learn or to do. Doesn't it? You know? You got to learn. The young girl has to learn how to sweep the floor, to hold the broom. To begin with, she gets it round the wrong way or does something, unless she's been watching. She's got to exert effort. Is this right, Mum? Is this right? And eventually she gets it, and then there's no effort. But to begin with, there's effort. And if you're going to learn to drive a car, it's a terrible effort to begin with. Oh, we all know you get in the car and you feel as though you've been driving forever, in your ignorance. And God helps you and you don't hit anything. And you don't even know how to use the brake, but everything seems to go all right in the first driving lesson or so. And then after that, it starts to grip. And then you're not sure what are the gears, you've got to use the gears, and it's an effort to remember to do that, and to put this in here, and to signal over here, and to look in the mirror. It's an effort. And then as soon as I've exhausted the effort and I've learnt, it's easy, I never think about it again. So everything, even in the spiritual life, getting rid of my chat, to not say that sentence that I was going to say, is an effort, because the self is a continuity. It wants to keep going. And I take the effort not to, because I know I don't want to keep chatting. And then, after a while, it goes, this unnecessary chat. So that might be what you're thinking of, this initial effort that then leads to effortlessness. And it takes effort to surrender to the divine will, to give up my will. It takes effort because I want to grab the steering wheel, don't I? I'm giving up to God. Yes, I've given up to God for 3 days. I've given up to God. Along comes a bit of a decision or something, and yes, I've given up to God, I'm giving up to God, and boom, I grabbed the wheel at the last moment. That's how and it takes effort to let go of that wheel and not to grab it at the last moment. And when we do that, it becomes effortless not to grab the wheel, to let it be. See?